So here we go. Let z equal x cubed plus xy squared, x equal u times v squared plus w cubed, and y equal u plus v times e to the w. Use the chain rule to find, we're just going to do partial of z with respect to w when u is equal to 1 and v is equal to 2 and w is equal to 0. So this is a little bit different than some of the ones we did in class. So you have z as a function of x and y. So far, that's pretty normal, at least in terms of what we've seen before. But then x and y are functions of 3 variables, u, v, and w each, right? But individually, it doesn't really change much. U, v, and w. So if we're going to find, let's write down the appropriate formula. So if we're going to find the partial of z with respect to w, which chain are we going to follow? We're going to go from, we're going to have to go from z to x. We'll have to go from z to y too. And then from x to w, and then add that to the chain of derivatives we get from going from z to y and from y to w. So what would that formula then look like? Partial of z with respect to x times partial of x with respect to w. And these are funky d's all around, right? Plus partial of z with respect to y times partial of y with respect to w again. Everybody follow how I figured that out? Even if you don't quite have it memorized, if you can draw that little diagram. I mean, eventually you'll have the pattern memorized. You won't need the diagram. But just to make yourself feel more comfortable at first, draw the diagram. So then we need to find, okay, let's find these on the fly. We'll find the function form of dz dw, and then eventually we'll plug in u equals 1 and v equals 2 and w equals 0. Of course, we'll need to get functions of x and y in terms of u and v and perhaps w in order to do that. So, okay, focus your eyes on z. What's the partial of z with respect to x? So 3x squared plus just y squared. So that's just this first guy here, right? And then focus your eyes on x. What's the derivative of x with respect to just w? 3w squared. Okay, so we've taken care of that guy as well. Make sense so far? Okay, dz dy, okay, focus back on z and take the derivative with respect to y. Don't forget addition here. What's the derivative of z with respect to y? Just 2xy, right? That first term, x cubed, is a constant with respect to y. So the derivative of that thing is 0. And then times dy dw, partial of y with respect to w. So focus your eyes on this guy. What do you get? V e to the w, right? The v is not going to, it's a constant out in front. It's not going to go anywhere. It's e to the w you're taking the derivative of, which is just e to the w, but the constant factor in front doesn't go anywhere. Everybody buy that? Okay. I don't know how much you want to simplify this. We could just insert what x equals in terms of v and w, or you know what, better yet, here's a little shortcut. Since ultimately we want the numerical value of the derivative when u equals 1 and v equals 2 and w equals 0, why don't we first just find what x is when u equals 1, v equals 2, and w equals 0. And the same thing for y. So, I mean, wouldn't that be easier than actually plugging in the formula for for x in terms of u, v, and w, and y in terms of those? Yeah. This, since we're just after the numerical value, I think this will be easier. So let's take the x and plug in 1 for u, 2 for v, 0 for w. So what is that going to get us? 1 times v squared, 2 squared, so, and then w is 0, so just 4. Everybody agree with that? And then what about the y? So we have 1 plus v is 2, and then e to the 0. Oh, so that sticks around as 1, right? So 3. So x is 4, and y is 3 at these values. Oh, okay, so then we're in good shape. So 3 times 4 squared, essentially. So I'm filling in right here for right now. So 3 times, let's see how, we don't want to skip all the steps, but I think we can skip some of them. So 3 times 4 squared, what's that going to be? So 48 plus what's y squared? 9 in parentheses there. 3 times, oh, did I need to do any of that? No, I could have just realized it was going to be 0 and not done any of that. That's okay. Plus 2 times x times y. What's that going to be? 2 times 4 is 8, times 3 is 24. Oh, I should look over here to make sure there's no factor of 0, but I don't think there is here. And then what was v again? So times 2 times 1. All right. So what do we get here? That's 0 plus 48. I think that's 48. That make sense to you? Okay.